Hello everyone, welcome to another video on this channel. Today I'll be continuing the series Man vs Machine with another game between Kasparov and Deep Blue. This was the second game in their match. And if you haven't seen the previous video, the link is in the description, and Kasparov won that match using the King's Indian attack. And it was a pretty exciting game. Let's check out what happens in this one. So Deep Blue opened with e4 here. And then Kasparov responded with e5, and it is not a secret that Kasparov's favorite response to e4 is c5, going for the Sicilian defense, usually the knight f 7 in-game variations. But since this defense leads to rather sharp positions, and as I talked about in my last video, Kasparov wanted to avoid sharp positions, knowing that the computers would generally better than him in those positions, and he thought he could positionally outplay them instead. So he decided to go for e5, which is a very fine alternative. Knight f3 and knight c6. And now this time Kasparov goes for this straightforward way of defending the e5 pawn. Last year, not last year here, but the year before this match, Kasparov played a game with Deep Blue and had opted for the Petshov defense, which usually leads to a symmetrical position after knight takes e5, d6, knight f3, knight takes e4, d4, and d5. But the Deep Blue team didn't waste the past year, and they prepared extremely hard, and one of their priorities was improving the lines that had previously been played. So Kasparov thought it would be better to avoid them completely. Now bishop e5. Of course, this choice of openings is a little surprising. The Ruy Lopez is well known for its close positions and complexity. And now they play a bit of theory. a6, bishop a4, knight f6, white castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, black castles, h3, h6, d4, rook e8, and now knight bd2. And now this doesn't seem to be a great place for this white knight, but it doesn't really matter because this knight is en route to much bigger things. Deep Blue intends to send it to f1 and then g3, which is a very common idea on the Ruy Lopez, and then after that to the final destination, which is f5. From there, it puts pressure on these weak spots in the black position and creates for some serious discomfort, and it's a common idea in the Ruy Lopez. So bishop f8 was played to solidify the position and keep the rook protecting this pawn. And this bishop isn't really doing much on e7 here, so it usually can reroute to a better square. Knight f1, bishop d7, knight g3, knight a5, bishop c2, keeping the bishop pair, c5, b3, knight c6, now d5, knight e7, bishop e3, knight g6, queen d2, and knight f7. And now Kasparov finally gets off the path of chess theory with this move. Before this move, there were at least 100 games in the database, and after this there are only 3 or 4. And it seems as if Black has started to play on the offensive on the king side now that the center is completely blocked. It's like a reverse French structure of some sort. And by playing knight f7, he has opened the he opens the d8 to h4 diagonal with the declared intention of bringing the queen into the action. a4, and this move shows at once that Black that his rook will have to remain on a8 for a while, since now at any point white has this option of taking on b5 and opening up the a file for his rook, where it will be very powerful. Knight h4, knight takes h4, queen takes h4, now queen e2. And this is a very beautiful and subtle move by Deep Blue, showing an amazing understanding of the position on the computer's behalf. The queen comes to e2 for two diametrically opposed purposes. It comes to e2 for two diametrically opposed purposes. First of all, it is a defensive move, and it is a defensive move now that the f4 square isn't that important. the queen moves to the d1 to h5 diagonal, and this thus preemptively blocks any tactical strikes that could have followed after the knight jumping to g5. At the same time, the queen on e2 is putting additional pressure on the b5 pawn, and this is a important theme in the rule of chess, to put pressure on this b5 pawn. And of course, we'll continue adding the pressure with bishop d2 to bishop c2 to bishop d3, queen d8, and now this is a dubious decision to abandon any possible initiative opportunities on the king side here, because now just focus on the defense on the queen side, because now white has the initiative and it's becoming easier for him to attack after b4. And this just liquidates the queen side, but also gives white extreme counterplay, as his bishops are ready to be far more active than black's. Queen c7, rook e c1. So and now white just threatens to blow up the entire queen side with the c3 to c4 push. c4, stopping it. Rook a3, and now Deep Blue's next plan is simple: double the rooks, and then take the pawn on b5. Rook e8, rook ca1, q d8, now f4. And now this idea of opening up a second area of play is just a fantastic idea, because white's pieces have such greater mobility, and can go from one side to another much easier than black's. Black, meanwhile, has to suddenly fight disadvantageous situations on both sides of the chessboard, and he doesn't really have the resources to do so. Knight f6, and now f takes c5. Now Deep Blue plays a very interesting move. Instead of making sure the black bishop on f8 never sees daylight again, because this bishop currently is a bad bishop and it's just completely blocked off from the game, he actually opens up this a3 to f8 diagonal for it. The reason is he will get a passed pawn on the d file, which is extremely important in these sort of positions, as they can often be the deciding factor in the game. D takes c5 was played, queen f1, knight e8, and now this knight move, the black knight continues to strip to the queen side, but it is very slow and passive, and Deep Blue capitalizes excellently with queen f2, knight d6, bishop b6, queen e8, rook 3a2, bishop e7, and now bishop c5. And now the machine immediately senses that black is trying to activate the bishop, so he cuts off this idea by attacking the knight on d6, and making sure black has to keep the bishop there to defend it. Bishop f8, moving the bishop back, and knight f5. This just is just blowing Kasparov apart, and there's really not much to do. After bishop takes f5, e takes f5, f6, and now bishop takes d6, stopping taking the knight, because the knight was proving a solid piece. And now after bishop takes d6, a takes b5, a takes b5, and bishop e4. Now this bishop blocks this e-pawn, which could be a potential aggressor, and now this gives black virtually no counterplay, and he has this full control over this a-file. And now this queen is ready to come in and attack the black king, and all of these gives white a lot of counterplay, while black has to just defend a very much worse position. Rook takes a2, queen takes a2. Black just attempts to liquidate, but it doesn't work. Queen d7, queen a7, rook c7, queen b6, rook b7, and now rook a8 check, forcing the king to come up to f7, and not forcing the king, forcing the king to just come up, and it comes up to f7. King h7 would have been the better choice, because the king is slightly more safe. This pawn is blocked, but king f7 is very dubious. Queen a6 was played, queen c7, queen c6, and now white is offering a queen trade, this time in even better conditions. If black accepts it, then he'll be fighting against a pawn on c6. And white has a super active bishop, and remind you, this Spanish bishop is usually traded off early in this game. Then because of the position of the black king back here, queen c6 also has a more concrete threat, queen e8 mate, and eventually Kasparov opts for queen d6 check, but uh, and Deep Blue doesn't even take the queen. He goes king f1, and after rook b8 and rook a6, the computer doesn't succumb to the temptation of queen d7, followed by rook a7, because after queen d7, king g8, rook a7, bishop f8, d6, and then queen e3. Black manages to prevent this checkmate by creating a perpetual check and check chance, and instead Deep Blue plays the powerful rook a6, which forces black to trade queens, and thus practically end the game, since queen c6, d6, black has no way of stopping the c pawn, and at the same time preventing white from capturing these weak pawns, which is why the world champion, Garry Kasparov at the time, resigned. And in this position, however, the funny thing is, he could have tried going for a draw with queen e3 the position would have been drawn, but he didn't fight it. He didn't find it, and it was he didn't, and thus resigned. It was a great game by, I think, both of them, and it showed lots of nice ideas in the Spanish game and what you should do overall in close positions. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.